For my informative speech, I chose to do it on Hitler and the Holocaust. We all know a lot about the history surrounding this time and this time period, the war, because certainly our country was involved. But I just wanted to go over some of the maybe things we have heard, things we haven't heard, just the generals. So something about Adolf Hitler. He was born on April 20th in Austria in 1889. Very resentful as a child. His dad had a lot of hatred, very authoritative. He wanted obedience. He demanded it. Yet his mom was very sweet, very frugal. She was very sensitive, full of life. She was young. He had a great mom, a great dad, but in a way they had a broken home. And Hitler had a lot of reason to be resentful as a person. It's just who he was. So very hostile towards his father. His mother died of cancer. So after he lost his mom, of course, his whole life went into a tailspin. He didn't know what to do. So he went to Vienna to strive for a dream of his, is to be in the arts, be part of arts. So he moved there in October of 1907. He was rejected by the Viennese Academy of Fine Arts. This is a crucial moment in time for Hitler because he sees it as rejection, as disgust. They don't like him for who he is, because he's German, that he's insuperior. And as a German man, he needs that superiority. He wants to feel that as who he is. So it's a crucial moment for him. And this rejection was the fuel for Hitler's overwhelming rage against the liberal arts. That's even Western culture in general. He just has a hatred for it. He acquires his first political education in Vienna, which also is a crucial moment in time for Hitler, because if it wasn't for this, he wouldn't have been who he was. If these two events had not been there, who knows what would have happened. It could have been a totally different situation. So in this, he picked up his extremely negative attitude towards others who were not of pure blood German. And of course, Jews, anybody of the not like of Germans. That's what he was taught in his political degree. It was from this education Hitler was taught hatred towards Jews. He saw the Jews to be the root cause of just about everything, every problem that Germany had. He related it back to the Jews. For some weird reason, he bought into that and believed that. So issues such as prostitution and capitalism and government issues and political issues, he saw it as the Jews' wrongdoing, that they were the root cause of it. So back in the World War I, Hitler left Vienna to go to Munich in 1913. So during the war, he received the Iron Cross, which is a first-class award. He was seen as a noble and brave soldier in Germany. Very, very high honor. But he didn't reach the level within the military he wanted. So he spent 4 months recovering from being gassed very severely towards the end of the war. So within that 4 months, more resentment, more hatred grew within him. And once he recovered, he convinced himself that he would be the one to bring Germany back to its greatness. It was him, that he had been chosen to be the one to lead Germany through its crisis, through its situation. So without all this, or without having leadership qualities, he couldn't have been able to do this. He was seen as a very fierce man, a voice, his speaking abilities, everything about him. He was seen as a great leader and a very fierce person in general. Like I said before, he's a great oratory speaker, a lot of enthusiasm, yet very, very concise on what he said. Had awesome at putting words together to where he wants you to hear what he wants you to hear. Very, very great at it. He came up with a Nazi symbol, a motto, and generated his own personal SWAT team known as the Stormtroopers in black shirts, which personal bodyguards, presidents today have them, but this is more of an aggression towards people when he went to speak. If something was to go wrong, that they were there to, oh, hey, this is us. You're doing what we want you to do. He focused his energy on blasting the Versailles Treaty, which limited Germany from any kind of military advancement, that is, naval forces, tanks, airplanes, anything. So he attacked that. He had a plan to attack that, which would happen in the near future. Hitler, along with one of his generals, marched through Munich in an attempt to overthrow the government. They stormed into the government building. Hitler fired a shot off towards the roof. and shouted, "We're here to take over. A new government is in place. I'm in charge." And they stormed out of that room, went marching out to the city, and came upon government forces. Unfortunately, Hitler and them were defeated. They sent him to trial, and he was sentenced to 5 years. But during his trial, Hitler did something that was very uncharacteristic of anybody else. He stood up and was very persuasive, used his propaganda to him to draw people to him. Very persuasive. He drew the whole crowd to him, and he only served 9 months of his sentence for being such a great inmate. But while in prison, he, like I said, grew even more resentful towards the Jews, towards the other parts of government, towards anybody else that was not a part of his plan. So within those 9 months, he published the Nazi Bible, and it sold 5,000 copies while he was in. But after he got out, 6 million were printed. Even more dramatic there. So a huge number. He commenced the plan after his beer hall push failed to not attack the ends of barrels until he commanded them. So Hitler was very, very smart. Instead of running towards the lines to his death, his new plan was to control those people, and then say, "Hey, see ya." So Hitler was very, very smart, very, very methodical in what he was doing. In the Blood Purge in 1934, Hitler officially took over as dictator of Germany. During the next 4 years, Hitler outwitted his opponents into allowing him to build a huge army, constructing naval fleets, tanks, etc. So the Versailles Treaty he completely ignored and persuaded other countries' officials to allow him to do this. So on September 1st, 1939, World War II began with Germany invading Poland. So from here comes the Holocaust. Why the Holocaust? Why was the Holocaust necessary? Well, Hitler's grand plan was this in the making. The war was just a blanket for the Holocaust. The total number of people brutally murdered during this time would amount to 6 million. That's what we know of. So beginning in 1941, Jews from all over the European continent were being gathered and put into ghettos. In September of 1941, from all over, Jews were mandated to bear the patch of the Yellow Star, making them easy targets for the government to attack. So in August of 1941, 500 officials gassed 500 Soviet POWs to death. This was just the beginning of what Hitler had planned. So after they found out this had worked, they placed a huge order with a German pesticide firm for this Zyklon B gas, an early sign of the ensuing Holocaust, which Allied forces were informed of and they ignored. So there were signs of what was to come, and they were completely ignored. There were 5 mass concentration camps used for killing Jews, others. The most infamous one was Auschwitz. Alone, 2 million people were murdered in the process at this camp, and thousands of others died as well from starvation and disease. So these places were used for testing, not just for the murders, but for science. They were saying how far they could take their perfect race, even to make it more perfect. How far can their bodies go? Limitations of heat, of without food, water, anything they were testing. So even on the events of D-Day, people were still being killed in concentration camps, which is astounding. Even when they were losing, they were still persecuting these people. So towards the end of the Nazis' reign, a large portion of Austria's Jewish population was deported and killed, upwards of 12,000 per day, which is insane when you think about the number of Jackson residents in Jackson, Tennessee, close to 125, maybe 150, pushing it there. So that's a week and a half. The entire population of Jackson is wiped out off the face of Earth. Generations gone. It's amazing to me how many people were actually killed. So Hitler finally committed suicide on April 30th of 1945 while he was forced into a bunker within Germany. They surrounded him, the forces did, and he committed suicide. And barely a week after that, Nazi forces surrendered. So I hope this has been informative enough for you, and I hope that it can open up our eyes to the past and what to look for in the future, so these things will not be allowed and can be stopped. So, thank you.